just like to actually touch on a couple of those issues that Senator Canavan touched on as well, with the Racism It Stops With Me campaign, and particularly the tender that went out. I just want to touch on a couple of things that are in addition to that. The document does, as you alluded to, talk in certain terms of institutional, structural and systemic racism. It speaks in that language. I'm just wondering if you can help me with what is meant by those terms, if they can be defined for me.
The website that we have does describe what those things are, so perhaps it's best for me to anchor my response in the definitions that our own website, the Racism It Stops With Me website. It provides the following definitions of structural and systemic racism. Systemic racism is when the policies and practices of institutions result in unfair treatment of some groups compared to others. Structural racism refers to inequalities found in societies that tend to exclude some groups of people. For example, when certain groups are underrepresented in fields like the media, the legal profession or politics.
Right. And so is it the position of the AHRC then that there is that racism in Australia? That exists? The Commission follows the evidence that other bodies have done. For instance, the Closing the Gap agreement referred directly to a whole range of areas in which, from the perspective of addressing some of the inequalities experienced by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, that there were areas that needed to be addressed. So it is the position of the HRC that there is structural and institutional racism in Australia?
Perhaps, Senator, this would be an appropriate moment for me to invite my colleague, June Oscar AO, who is the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Social Justice Commissioner, to respond to your question as to whether there is structural or systemic racism in Australia.
Thank you, Senator. That's a very important question, particularly for people like myself, an Aboriginal woman, and I come from the Kimberley region of Western Australia, and I have travelled just recently in the past 18 months engaging with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander women and girls across Australia in every state and territory, in urban communities, in regional towns, in remote areas and very remote areas. And sadly, there is this common conversation of the experiences of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, women and girls across all of our states and territory. So yes.
So it is the position of the HRC that Australia is institutionally racist.
To clarify, yes, there are experiences by many Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples across Australia in their interactions with structures and systems of government that they have experienced racism.
What we're describing there are specific instances of racism. What I'm asking is whether it is the position of the Human Rights Commission that there is institutional and systemic, endemic racism in the country. That seems to be the answer in the question that we've already had. But I'm interested, once again, what are the institutions that are racist? Would you like to pick any out in particular?
It's not... I think
okay. We're getting some suggestions from around the room, perhaps.
The answer to the question is that reports that have been directed to identifying things that lead to issues of the kind to which Social Justice Commissioner Oscar referred, that is a process of building evidence.
So you're telling me that you are actively looking to drum up the suggestion that it is a racist country? Because I'll tell you why I say that. To go to the document, the tender, to engage audiences beyond those already supportive of anti-racism work, beginning with a series of conversations about race and racism, both in the media and around the dinner table. Does that not strike you as being particularly inflammatory language? Is it the Commission's position to drum up the suggestion that Australians are actually racist when they are not? Senator, I think that's an unfair question.
It's a question.
You're also trying to put words into my mouth. It's not for me to have an opinion on those matters. It's for me to lead a process which explores
The
through
Commission must have a
conversations
position on this.
and through conversations,
Apparently I can't
through
decide
research,
what's racist or not.
and projects like Commissioner Tan has just conducted. Commissioner Oscar referred to the Wiyana Udangani report, which was tabled in December last year, and a project that Commissioner Tan has nearly finished is on hearing the voices of Australian Muslims. It's through projects like that that are conversations, hearing from people where they have experience, so evidence-based.
So where is the evidence of this racism?
The Commissioner Oscar has referred to issues that are revealed in her report that was tabled in December.
Institutional racism, systemic racism?
I suggest that you read the report, Senator, and then you can explore the particulars of that with Commissioner Oscar in relation to her